My boss and coworkers are constantly at my house. From Ask a Manager, January 3, 2023. I need your help in reclaiming my home. I am an employee at a small consulting company. My boss plus 3 employees. We all live in the same small town, and I often see my boss and coworkers at social functions around town. We each work from our homes and there is no central office. I live in a very convenient location right downtown, and this has led to my house being used as the central location for the business. For example, my home functions as a place for people to exchange work materials and a place to meet up and park vehicles before working out of town. If my boss wants to meet in person, he invites himself to my house. He does Zoom calls from my house because I have better internet than he does. He also makes me store large pieces of equipment. When I pushed back against this, he said it's because I have a large house and garage while he lives in a small apartment. I had to train a new hire in my dining room. A 5-day endeavor. One of my colleagues, who I considered a friend before she was hired here, has started imposing even more by asking me to make her coffee, asking to borrow clothing from me, and storing personal belongings at my place when we go on work trips. She's also using my bathroom twice a day, a few days a week, when we meet at my house to start at a day of work out of town, and when we get back after the workday to pick up her car. I am not a monster that will say no to her when nature calls. She arrives after a 45-minute drive from her house. This isn't her fault. It's my boss who has set up the situation that my home is the base for the staff members. But on other days when she works alone, she has asked if she could pop by throughout the day to use my washroom when she's driving around. I said no to that and suggested she use local businesses. Not great for her. I wish I were more welcoming, but it forces me to hide my medications and do a quick cleanup before she gets there, which I'd rather not do. Plus, when she's in the house she asks if she can have a cup of coffee. This all makes me feel self-conscious about my house, imposes on my privacy, and my spouse's privacy, makes me feel taken advantage of, and even annoys my dogs. I have dealt with some of this by occasionally saying no or coming up with excuses such as, my husband is napping so you can't come over, or, I ran out of coffee filters so let's meet at the cafe instead. I also suggested that my boss rent a local co-working space, but he said it was too expensive. My boss and colleagues aren't getting the hint that I want my house to be off limits to them. Now I'm considering having a meeting with my boss to set some boundaries. Ideally, I would not want anyone at my house anymore for any reason. I am happy to have my own home office where I complete my work, but I don't want my boss or colleagues to be at my house anymore. Period. Not even for non-work reasons at this point. How do I graciously set this boundary without seeming rude or unwelcoming? This has been going on for about 1.5 years. I have started job hunting, but in my small isolated town there are few opportunities. Allison's advice. Update March 13, 2023. First off, I want to thank you and the commenters for the advice. I hadn't realized how ridiculous my situation had become. Probably because small-town life has a way of making strange relationship dynamics seem normal. I sent the letter just before you went on Christmas vacation, so there was about 34 weeks of time before getting your advice. Turns out I did most of the things the way you would have done, which was reassuring. Before my letter was published, high-speed internet came to my boss's neighborhood. He connected to it right away and stopped using my house for Zoom meetings without me saying anything. Also, before my letter was published, I told my boss a white lie that I was doing renovations and couldn't store the equipment for him. Turns out this is what you advised me to do. He replied that he'd put it in the company storage unit which he'd rented and forgotten to tell me about. It took some prodding to get him to follow through. But my house and garage are now free of company equipment. After reading your excellent advice, my coworker texted to say she'd be coming over for a meeting. I used your script and said that my house was no longer a central hub for the company and that we'd meet elsewhere. She replied, "Makes sense." We met at a coffee shop and there was no drama. That week she was laid off, so I no longer have any issues with her and we have not talked since. Which is fine with me. I feel so much lighter and happier at work and home now that I don't have to deal with her. I decided not to have a direct conversation with my boss about using my house for work. Much of it resolved with the new high-speed internet at his apartment and the layoff of my coworker. Since then, any time he has asked to meet, I've suggested we meet on Zoom or at a coffee shop and he has been fine with it. He has not been in my house at all this year and I plan on him never being here again. I don't know that he's clued in that my house is no longer available, but that's okay. If he hires another employee, I will have a direct conversation with him to ensure that my house is not available for any purpose anymore. But as yet that has not been needed. A few things I wanted to clarify that came up in the comments. First, my boss is not malicious. He's just clueless about boundaries. My coworker is also not malicious but just doesn't understand basic human relationship dynamics. Second, I am not at a point where I can heavily go into a job hunt because I'm facing a medical issue and don't have the energy to do a serious job hunt. I've done one interview and did not get the job and turned down 2 other interviews. I have started a grueling medical treatment and the thought of starting a new job during treatment makes my stomach turn. I thought I'd leave the readers with another fun tidbit. Despite have finally rid my house of my boss and coworker, my boss's daily walking route takes him past my house every morning. So every morning as I sip my coffee, he waves at me as he walks by. This is quite literally my worst nightmare. His boss forgot to mention a storage unit? Yeah, that was a hilariously inappropriate situation. Glad she's rid of that, and lucky it mostly worked out without any of her input. I am a strong believer that being able to throw each other under the bus when needed, with each other's permission, is one of the benefits of marriage. Love this line from Allison. She's also using my bathroom twice a day. The fact that the friend was demanding coffee was a lot. The boss storing things and using the home for Zoom meetings was a lot. But to lose access to your bathroom, I could never. One of the things I love best about working from home is access to my own bathroom that no one else will use. Using public washrooms at work is fine, but it's something I had to force myself to use because I need to be relaxed and at peace when using the bathroom. I know this is weird. To lose that twice a day, multiple times a week. I'm glad Oop got their bathroom and home back. I hate updates like this. Reasonableness. Communicating. Makes my skin crawl. I would have advised him to stay up for 20 hours and watch Inglourious Bastards over and over again, until the solution became clear to him. Op was a lot more patient than I would have been. Absolutely not happening. That said, I live in a tiny, shabby cabin in the woods. Surprisingly great internet, so it's never been a drama. This is a real-life horror film. Nobody I've ever worked with has been in my house. I thought that was pretty normal, until my manager marked my performance review down for it. Literally. He used the example of not being invited to my house and the fact I've never forced my GF to introduce herself on a team call as evidence of my poor teamwork. Okay, cool. Let's see if HR agree. Spoiler, they did not. My boss is not malicious. He's just clueless about boundaries. Oh, hun. Sadly, Oop had that sorta backwards. They are the one that is clueless about boundaries. And the boss conveniently forgetting about the company storage space is a major sign that he knew exactly what he was doing. I don't even give my job my real phone number. This is insane. Yeah, this company isn't well set up. The employee should have never been put in this position in the first place. Oh man. This is me with one of my job when I was hired for a brand new business that the office was nearly done and my apartment, a quite fancy one, was 5 minutes walk away. For a month, it was hell, but I sucked it up as I liked the job. They even asked me to cook lunch for them paying so little. I quit after 3 months. They're not malicious, just have poor boundaries? Sure, Jan. That week she was laid off, so I no longer have any issues with her and we have not talked since. Which is fine with me. I feel so much lighter and happier at work and home now that I don't have to deal with her. I like to know more in depth what happened with the friend turned using bathroom and wanting op making coffee too much now. Former coworker seems like whole a lot missing. Fun, drama just not told. I like this update. It's light. It's easy. Really hope she was able to get some sort of tax write-off from any of this. It's the least they can do for imposing on her home. I smoke too much weed for me to ever let this happen. She seems sweet. Poor lady. But as a small town girl myself, I find it funny because this is how people get out here. Give an inch, they take a mile. Plus, when she's in the house she asks if she can have a cup of coffee. Where do people get this level of audacity? Emma, use your house as a free rest stop. Also, mind throwing on a pot of coffee for me real quick? First'll, I don't know how op figures the boss and ex-colleague weren't malicious. Maybe to sleep better at night? And secondly, I find it funny that op spent the entirety of 2 posts on how they suck at appropriately and effectively setting boundaries, but still says the ex-colleague is the one who doesn't get basic social interactions. I guess it's hard for some people to really look at their own belly buttons. But that's severely lacking in self-awareness. I guess good thing that things work themselves out. And hopefully op will take this as a life lesson, lest they let people walk all over them. And their spouse? Damn. Curtains for op's coffee moment, definitely. Semicolon closing parenthesis.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.